Today, we're going to tackle a tool that promises to change the way you write, maybe forever. We're talking about Markdown, a super simple language that powers everything from websites to your own personal notes. So let's get right into it. You know that feeling, right? You're fighting with some clunky word processor, clicking through endless menus, and then your file is locked into some proprietary format? Well, what if there was a way to write that was just simpler, portable, and totally focused on your words? There is, and that's exactly what we're here to master. So what exactly is Markdown? Well, it was created way back in 2004 by John Gruber, and it's basically a way to format plain text using a syntax that's incredibly easy to read and write. Think of it as a writing format, not a publishing format. You just create a clean text file that any editor on Earth can open. Then, a renderer can turn it into HTML, a PDF, or pretty much anything else you need. The real magic? It's just text. That means it's future-proof. A file you write today will still be perfectly readable on any computer, 10, 20, 50 years from now. Okay, so here's our game plan to get you from zero to hero. We'll start with the core idea behind Markdown, then we'll jump into formatting your text, organizing your content, building some advanced layouts, mastering the little details, and we'll wrap it all up with a super handy cheat sheet. And hey, feel free to use the chapters to hop around if you need a quick refresher on something. At its heart, Markdown is just a set of rules. The original 2004 version is the foundation, but over the years, different platforms have added their own powerful features, creating what we call flavors. The most popular one these days, and the one we'll be looking at for the advanced stuff, is GitHub Flavored Markdown, or GFM. It adds awesome things like tables and task lists, which we'll get to later. But first, let's nail the basics. All right, let's get hands-on. In this section, we're covering the absolute fundamentals. These are the building blocks you are going to use every single time you write. We're talking headers, paragraphs, and making your text pop. First things first, headers. You've actually got two ways to do this. There's the original method, using equal signs or dashes underneath the text. But honestly, the more common and way more flexible method is just using hash marks. 1 hash for a level 1 header, 2 for a level 2, and so on, all the way down to 6. I'd really recommend sticking with the hash method. It's just simpler and covers all your bases. Okay, listen up, because this next point trips up almost everybody when they're starting out. To make a new paragraph, you have to hit return twice. You need a full blank line between your text blocks. If you just hit return once, Markdown thinks it's all part of the same paragraph. Now, if you do want to force a line break without a new paragraph, here's the trick. End your line with 2 spaces, and then hit return once. That little 2-space trick is a total game changer. Now for making things stand out. For italics, just wrap your text in single asterisks or underscores. For bold, you guessed it, double them up. And for strikethrough, which you'll see a lot in GitHub Flavored Markdown, use 2 tildes on each side. Now, here's a little pro tip for you. Try to stick with asterisks for bold and italic. Why? Because underscores are used all the time in code and file names, and you can sometimes get some weird, unexpected formatting if you're not careful. So you can now format words and lines like a champ. Let's zoom out a little. How do you structure a whole document? In this section, we'll cover all the essentials for organizing your content. We're talking lists, links, images, and even putting in blocks of code. Linking to stuff is pretty fundamental, right? Well, Markdown gives you 3 great ways to do it. You've got your inline links, which are the most direct. Then there are reference links, which are fantastic for keeping your source text clean. And finally, automatic links, for when you just want a URL to be clickable. Let's take a look at the syntax for each. Let's break this down. For a basic inline link, the text you want people to see goes in square brackets, and the URL goes right after it in parentheses. A reference link is a little different. You define the URL somewhere else in the document, which helps keep your paragraphs from getting cluttered. But here's the most elegant part. An image is just a link with an exclamation point at the very beginning. That's literally it. Displaying code is one of Markdown's superpowers. For a short command right inside a sentence, just wrap it in single backticks. For a bigger block of code, you have a couple of options. The original way was to indent every single line with 4 spaces. But the modern and much better way is to use fenced code blocks. You just start and end the block with 3 backticks. And the best part? You can tell it what language you're writing right after the first 3 backticks. And most renderers will give you that beautiful syntax highlighting. Lists are so incredibly easy. For a bulleted list, just start each line with an asterisk, a dash, or a plus sign. They all work. For a numbered list, just use numbers. And a really cool feature here is you don't even have to get the numbers right. You can type 111, and Markdown will automatically fix it to 123 in the final version. You can also nest lists just by indenting. And in flavors like GFM, you can create these awesome to-do lists with clickable checkboxes. Super useful. Here are 2 more simple but powerful tools for structuring your documents. To create a block quote, like a pull quote in an article, just start the line with a greater than symbol. It's that easy. And to create a horizontal line to break up your content, just put 3 or more dashes, asterisks, or underscores on a line all by themselves. It's a really clean way to separate sections. Okay, you've officially mastered the original spec. Now, let's have some fun and explore the features that come from the extended flavors, like GitHub-flavored Markdown. This is where Markdown starts to handle more complex stuff, starting with one of the most wanted features, tables. Yeah, tables were not part of the original deal, but they're so widely supported now, they might as well be. The syntax looks a little weird at first, but it's totally logical. You use pipe characters to separate your columns, and then a line of 3 or more dashes to separate the header from the rest of the table. But here's the real power move, alignment. By adding colons to that dashed line, you can control whether each column is left-aligned, right-aligned, or center. All right, it's time for the little details that will make you a true Markdown pro. These are the techniques that give you total control, letting you handle those tricky edge cases and add sophisticated elements that aren't in the standard toolkit. This might be the most powerful escape hatch in all of Markdown. If you can't do something with Markdown syntax, you can just write regular HTML. Seriously, Markdown parsers are built to just pass HTML tags through untouched. This is absolutely perfect for things that aren't supported natively, like definition lists. You can just write the standard HTML tags right there in your document, and it'll work perfectly. This slide's a 2-for-1 special. First, escaping. What if you need to type a literal asterisk without making the text italic? You just escape it by putting a backslash right before it. This tells the parser, hey, just treat this as a normal character. Second, many Markdown flavors support footnotes, which are amazing for citations. You just place a little reference tag in your text and then define what the footnote says somewhere else in the document. And the Markdown ecosystem just keeps on growing. A lot of platforms now support really specialized content. For example, some can render complex mathematical equations using LaTeX syntax, which is a lifesaver for academic and technical writing. And on a more fun note, a ton of platforms, especially those using GFM, support emoji shortcodes. You just type a keyword between colons like rocket, and poof, you've got an emoji. Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. We've gone all the way from the basic idea behind Markdown to advanced layouts and some real pro techniques. Now, let's bring it all home with a quick recap and talk about how you can start using all this today. Here it is, the core syntax all on one slide. Headers with hashes, bold text with double asterisks, links with brackets and parentheses, images are just links with an exclamation point, lists start with an asterisk, and inline code uses backticks. Honestly, if you master just these 6 things, you could handle about 90% of all your writing needs. This is your foundation. So what now? The single most important thing you can do is practice. Knowledge is only useful when you actually apply it. So open up any plain text editor or check out a great online tool like stackedit.io and just start typing. Take a document you already have and try reformatting it. Use Markdown for your next blog post or your next set of project notes. The absolute best way to make this stuff stick is to use it for a real-world task. We've spent all this time learning the syntax and the rules, but at the end of the day, Markdown is just a tool. It's a tool designed to get out of your way so you can focus on what's truly important, your ideas, your research, your story. It removes the friction between your thoughts and the page. So the real question is, with this powerful and simple tool at your fingertips, what are you gonna create?